Yes. I don't understand. What is the rationale for Philly being better than Dallas? Simple
Well,
question.
where do you want to start?
Tell
So
me.
Dallas had a ton of players leave the team and replace them with really nobody. Okay, so they were supposed to go all in, but there was no all in. Okay, their answer in the running game, we saw they brought Zeke back, now Dalvin Cook. They didn't really address that. They've had nothing but turmoil this offseason. So they got CD Lamb back. Great, that's done. But it's still, you've got a quarterback in the last year of his contract, a head coach who's on the last year of his contract, a defensive coordinator who's on a 1-year contract.
Do you think the coaches and coordinators in Philly have great job security?
Well,
I don't really care what the contracts are.
I think they have more than 1-year contract.
But they might not even have 1 year.
But
Sirianni might have 4 games.
What Philly did in the offseason said, okay, these are our problem areas. We have problems in the secondary. They went and drafted and got free agents in the secondary. We don't like our situation from a coaching perspective. They went and got some veteran coordinators. They looked at the problem. They said, this is how we're going to address them. Where I felt like Dallas had a significant amount of problems, but didn't really address them. They just talked about addressing them. And to me, that's the difference between the two.
Okay. I mean, just quickly, I think Dallas's problems are long term. Like the Dak Prescott contract situation does not have, in my opinion, much impact on this season. Micah Parsons' contract situation has no impact on this season. It just makes him more expensive down the road. CD did get done. The Cowboys, much like the Eagles, used their first-round pick on a player they expect to help immediately. For the Cowboys, left tackle. For the Eagles, they used their first and second-round pick on defensive backs. And I like the players, but I think we have seen more first-round left tackles come in and be pretty good to excellent immediately than defensive backs. That's a tougher spot usually. There's Sauce did it, McDuffie did it. Some other guys have done it, and I understand that. The guys with Seattle. Both teams changed defensive coordinators, but the Cowboys did it because their defensive coordinator got a head coaching job. The Eagles did it because they had to fire their coordinators. I think there is just a lot of wish casting about the Eagles fixing their problems.
Well, I didn't say that they necessarily had the right answer, but I like the fact that they actually went and tried to get an answer. They tried to fix those problems. And I'd say the other thing with a head coach on a 1-year contract, a quarterback on a 1-year contract, Micah not having a contract, if things get tough, if the season's not going great, there's definitely could be a pullback from some of those guys.
For sure, but
Micah could be like, well, I'm not going to get hurt before I get my big money contract. Dak could be the same way. If he's dinged up a little bit, I'm not necessarily going to play through it and put up a bunch of bad stats. If it's not going great, they may not be playing hard for the head coach because they know they're going to have a new head coach, in X amount of weeks.
I'm with you in that. I don't think there's any way Philly really doesn't win this division. I mean, they look like the clear favorite in this to me. But what about the Rams? That was a surprise, and I think probably the.
All right, well, we're not talking about the Rams. We're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. Nick really just struggles so hard with accepting the Eagles being a good team, and he can't let go of the Dallas Cowboys. And I think Mangini put it perfectly. And this is what I've talked about too over the last few months, that the Eagles were aggressive. They figured out what they realized or what they believed to be the problem of what caused them issues last season, and they went out and did everything in their power to fix it. Everything. Just the sheer fact that they got new coordinators alone is a massive step up. And then they got young defensive players, which to me is the way how we know defense to be played these days. Because it's so much more physical that the younger the better, actually. That when you have a younger team, it's just they bounce back from injuries faster, they stay fresher week to week, and it's actually better in that regard. And then offensively, they went out and got more weapons for Jalen Hurts and Kellen Moore to work with. Those things alone, like I keep saying, we don't have to go much deeper than that. That alone is going to make the Eagles significantly better. You can't point to any concrete moves that you can say, this makes the Cowboys better. Their new defensive coordinator is not better than Dan Quinn. So to think that their defense is going to be better or the same, I say no. I say it's probably going to go back a little bit. Their offense, they don't have a run game. They do have two 85-year-old running backs right now. Like, that's your plan to move forward? They still only have CD Lamb. CD Lamb is still like the only reliable wide receiver that Dak Prescott has. Dak Prescott is disgruntled. He doesn't have a contract. Mike McCarthy is a lame duck coach. So under those circumstances, why are you expecting the Dallas Cowboys to be competitive and good? And it's funny that Nick said, why do you believe that the Dallas Cowboys or that the Eagles are better than the Dallas Cowboys? Not the Commanders. Not the Commanders. Because Nick thinks that it's going to be the Cowboys, the Commanders, then the Eagles. He's got them third. He's incredibly low. And it's going to be really funny because we obviously have the first game on Friday, Eagles versus Packers. And if the Eagles win that game, he's going to say, I told you the Packers aren't that good of a team. And if the Packers win that game, he's going to say, see, I told you the Eagles aren't that good of a team. So it's a win-win for him either way. It's a win-win, no matter what happens. Even if the Eagles win by 50 points, it'll be like, I told you the Packers are not that good. Everybody was too high on the Packers. And if the Eagles lose, even in a close game, it's, see, the Eagles are just not good. Just not good enough. And then when he wants to use it as a way to then also bring down the Packers, he'll say, the Packers, I told you, they're not that good. They only beat the Eagles by 3. And they're not that good of a team. They're not even a playoff team. So it's going to be, I'm excited no matter how that outcome goes, because it's going to be so fascinating to see how that game gets broken down. We're just a few days away from it. Oh, we're so close. Although there's not going to be any breakdowns for First Things First until that Monday. I'll do a breakdown because I work 365. I don't follow a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday schedule, but it won't be First Things First, so we won't really hear what Nick has to say more than anything. But yeah, it's just so, I just struggle. I do. I struggle to see why people could be so low on the Eagles. I understand if you don't want to say that the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl, that they're the top 2 Super Bowl contender. I understand that. I really do. Because I think it's hard. There's a lot of great teams this year. There really are. And it is hard to forget what happened last season. I really get that. But to be so low that you can't fathom or comprehend that the Eagles are going to be better than the Cowboys or the Commanders, or at least competitive with those teams, that you're just so confident that the Eagles are not a good team, and that their coaches are bad, their players are bad, their draft picks were like good but also bad, is what Nick says. They're good draft picks but not good. You know, he tried to call out Howie, the GM for the Eagles, which also made zero sense to me. He didn't do it in this clip, but in the past, mainly post-draft. I struggle to understand it. I really do. You can criticize any team and you can be pro any team and you can make the arguments, but the arguments that are always made against the Eagles, they just don't land to me. I struggle to find the logic, and that's why Mangini even was like, where? Because he's like, tell me why you think the Cowboys aren't as good as the Eagles, and Mangini was like, well, where do you want me to start? Like, tell me why the Cowboys are going to be better than the Eagles. Like that, the burden of proof is on Nick in that regard, and he can't bring it. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, and I the one logical thing that I will credit Nick is the fact that you could say that the Dallas Cowboys problems are more long-term than short-term. So I do understand that logic. That is the one logical point. But that still doesn't change the fact that this season, the Eagles should have a better team than the Dallas Cowboys. The fact that it was so close last season between the Eagles and the Cowboys, at least from a record perspective, they even split the games, is all the proof I need. Because we clearly see that the Eagles got better and the Dallas Cowboys didn't get better. That by virtue, if you believe that the Dallas Cowboys were a better team than the Eagles, is already enough to, at the very least, at the minimum, put them on equal playing field. At a minimum. There's no reason to believe that the Eagles are just going to get worse and the Dallas Cowboys are going to get better based off of all the moves that have been done. There's zero reason to believe that. But that's, for some reason, that's what Nick believes. Doesn't make sense to me. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think Like, why do you think the Eagles are actually better than the Dallas Cowboys, or why do you think the Cowboys are better than the Eagles? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.